realized as I was posing for my thumbnail that my makeup was all smudged. So it looks like I'm like wiping away tears in the thumbnail. And I can't tell if the makeup is still smudged. This lighting is not great, but I'm not crying. I just kind of thought that was a weird, interesting thumbnail. And this video is about breaking the rules. Yeah, the lighting seems weird, or my face is puffy. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But we'll try not to be self-conscious about it. My internet's acting strange, so I'm also not sure if this video is working okay. But it looks like someone's watching, so that's good. And multiple people are watching now. All right. I always feel like there's this weird delay when I start live videos. Waiting to see if people are watching and wondering if there's like a technical glitch, because I've been having weird issues with YouTube and my internet. So anyways, this video is titled Breaking the Rules because that's what I was just reflecting on when I felt inspired to do this video. It's been a little while since I made one. I feel like time is really interesting right now. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like it's going by really fast. My perception of it is just kind of all over the place. And, you know, time is something that gives me some anxiety because it feels like time goes by so fast. And honestly, that's a bit of a blessing in a weird way, because I feel like when things start to move really fast and you recognize that they're moving fast, it's a great opportunity to consciously slow them down. And that is something I'm trying to figure out. I feel like I'm kind of like in this weird, like swirly element of my life. I don't know how else to describe this, but where I don't know, like I'm just trying to get a hold of things, and there are moments of clarity and there are moments of feeling grounded, and then it feels like I slip again and I'm back in the spiral trying to grasp onto things. And what's interesting is a lot of the time I don't really mind being in that chaotic spiral, if that makes sense. It's hard to describe, but I feel like I've been almost like in a dream state, or I feel like time just has been going in this, I don't know. It's very simple but hard to express, I suppose. Today feels like a really long day because I got up really early. My parents came into town last night, and this morning I decided to go to a yoga class with my mom. And I got up at 8:30 a.m. And anyone who knows me well from these videos, at least, will know that I get up late, and I've been trying to fix my sleep schedule, and that's an ongoing thing for me, is just like trying to figure out sleep. I literally, every single day of my life is it's funny to say, it's different, right? Like, people are like, what's an average day for you? And I don't have one. I really don't. I feel like maybe I have like 5 to 10 average days, but I never know when they're gonna happen, if that makes sense. So it's not like Monday through Friday or this, or every Monday is this way and every Friday is this way, etc. It's just like, I think the title of this video is more trying to figure out what my own rules are, but feeling like I'm breaking a lot of society's rules, basically. And I apologize if this seems all over the place, because I'm still trying to figure out how to express this. I never rehearse what I'm going to say in these uncensored videos. It's really just an outpouring of thoughts and emotions and all of that. But Derek just said, who's watching live, that he feels like I'm describing his life. So I know a number of you guys can relate, and that always inspires me to make these videos. Is, first of all, I feel like, you know, I've talked a lot about my mother, who I believe is a narcissist, based on some research I did, and I promise one of these days I will make a video about that topic specifically. I think I just need to plan that out because most of these videos are very spontaneous. And it's interesting because my mom's in town with my dad, and I spent some time with her today, and it's become like a fascinating case study to be around my mom because I feel like there's always so many insights. And God, I'm so over the place, but I promise this all connects. Last night I watched the movie Molly's Game. And Molly's Game is a really great film starring Jessica Chastain. I feel like it didn't get a ton of publicity, but it's really worth seeing, and I think it'll be in the running for the Oscars. And the movie is about this woman who has a lot of challenges in her life, and I can't really ruin the end, but a lot of the challenges have to do with her dad, right? And when I was watching this movie, I kept thinking about my challenges, my own family, and how that's impacted my life. And if you've heard me talk about this before, which has been a lot recently because it's been on my mind and in my heart, is really trying to figure out how my upbringing impacted my life and impacts who I am right now and how I can shift that. And a lot of that has been impacted by having a mother who I believe is a narcissist. And so one of the common things that can happen for daughters of narcissistic mothers is that we really want to please other people. And so I think what I was taught by my mother, and probably also my dad, is really feeling like I needed to follow the rules in order to succeed. And I think that's perpetuated a lot in our society, where we really, really want to fit in. So we look for rules to follow. We look for patterns. We look to see what other people are doing. We look for versions of success that we align with. And we try to figure out how to mimic that, how to create our own version of it, and how to just kind of fit in. And I think that I'm just when I talk about this like kind of chaotic, swirly feeling, it's like I know in my heart that I don't want to fit into the molds that I've somehow been attracted to. It's like this weird, that's why I mean like it's confusing, is I'm drawn to certain ways of acting, behavior, ways of life and all that, but simultaneously repelled by them. So I think that I have this back and forth push and pull of, and I'd love to hear if you guys can relate to this feeling, is wanting to fit in with other people because acceptance and validation have been reinforced in me so much. Again, this is common traits of daughters of narcissistic mothers. But then saying, like, why am I trying to fit in with these people that I don't really align with? Why do I want their approval so badly? So then I kind of want to rebel against that and break the rules. And it's a really complicated emotional thing. I think a lot of people struggle with this because our society, for the most part, and I can really speak from my experience as an American, so I don't mean to generalize this for everyone in the world and not even necessarily for everyone in the US, but from my perspective and my experiences, is I feel like a lot of people are experiencing that tug of war of like trying to figure out who we really are and craving so badly to fit in and be accepted, and then the things that we do to fit in and be accepted just don't feel right. So maybe we try to do something else, but then we don't feel accepted, and then we really want. It's like this ongoing thing, right? That I'm like in the weeds with that right now. Like I'm just like trying to figure out what really feels right for me. And in order to do that, I have to figure out who I really am and what I really want, right? Without trying to please other people. And that requires some rule breaking. I have been conditioned by my mother to experience a lot of guilt and shame, to really feel a desire to fit in and please other people. And so I have to like reprogram myself out of that, which is so challenging. And there are days when I feel like I'm really succeeding with that, and then there are days where I'm just like feeling like a failure with everything. which is really out of reality. I know that, but it still is that emotion, right? And then there are days where I'm feeling all sorts of emotions up and down. That's most common. It's like there'll be half an hour here where I feel horrible, and then a half an hour there where I feel on top of the world, and on and on. I feel like I've gotten things figured out and all that stuff. And I feel like that's just so common. I wonder, is that how I'll always feel? Is that going to be my experience ongoing? Right? Like, is that just part of the human condition of these up and downs? Or, perhaps through things like meditation, mindfulness, all those practices, can we find ways to feel more even keeled and have a more regular emotional experience every day? And I'm trying to figure out my specific way of doing that, because, for instance, like with my sleep schedule, it's so tricky because of that polarizing tug of war that I experience. It's like a lot of me wants to know what it's like to wake up early in the morning. Thanks. This is my ugly Christmas sweater. I just went to an event tonight where that was the theme. Thanks. Is it Fat Man who commented on my sweater? It actually says Bitcoin on it, which is a whole other topic I will dive into because everybody wants to talk about that these days. But then it's not something I'll get into today. Anyways, so I feel like I'm striving to just figure out something where I can feel my best every day and feel like, yeah, I guess it's like kind of a simple thing, right? Like, how can I feel truly my best every day? How can I feel even keeled? How can I feel, accomplished and all that? And is that simply just deciding to feel that way? Like, is it really just saying, you know what, no matter how today goes, I'm going to feel good about myself? Because it's all relative what we think feels good to us, right? So part of me is like, this is super simple. I can just choose to be grateful every day, every night before I go to bed, every morning when I wake up. I can choose to be content. And it doesn't really matter what I do and don't do. But for me, I experience so many emotions around guilt and shame, and so many emotions around not being good enough, so many emotions around feeling like I'm not doing it right. And so, like, this week, for example, I think on Sunday, I like got my to-do list together. Like, I go through these phases where I have a to-do list. It's very organized, and I like schedule everything out, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm going to do this on this day and this on that day. And it's like, now it's Thursday night, and I've barely accomplished anything on this list. My lists for each week are usually 50 to 100 tasks minimum, not including anything new that comes my way. And that's a lot, right? I mean, some of them are really small things, but some of them take hours or days to accomplish, right? Again, I'm sure you guys can relate to this too. So when I write it down, I'm like, ugh, it's like partially overwhelming to see everything and partially nice to have it all organized. But, here I am Thursday night, and there's a ton of stuff that I didn't do, and I'm right now experiencing a lot of guilt and shame for not doing it. I'm trying not to beat myself up for it. And the inspiration for this title, Breaking the Rules, came from me thinking, like, am I only feeling that guilt and shame because I've conditioned to feel badly when I don't do the things that other people want me to do, or I think that other people want me to do, right? And that's one of the hardest parts about the human experience, in my opinion, is that often, like, we live inside of our head, our whole reality. Hi, Vince. Our whole reality is based on our minds, right? Our individual minds. So each of us are kind of experiencing completely different realities, even when we interact with each other and do the same things, because we have all these emotions built up from, all old beliefs and experiences and perspectives. Like, two people could be doing the exact same thing or seeing the exact same thing, hearing the exact same thing, and yet interpreting it completely differently. And the more that I'm conscious of that, the more I have to kind of stop myself and think, like, is this emotion I'm experiencing right now really what I want to feel? And is that actually real? Or is that something that I've been conditioned to believe is real to kind of, get us into this, for lack of a better term, like a matrix or the society where we're all kind of following the pack, right? And so I know that's kind of like an out there concept, but the more I examine myself and the things that I'm doing each day and the feelings I'm having about my life, it's like, where am I most connected with myself? And I feel like sometimes you have to break out of other people's rules to really become clear on, do you truly want to follow those rules, and is it serving you to follow them? I think about this a lot too, like with the emotions around validation and approval. We're in this time where social media is ruling, or people were allowing it to rule our lives, right? So right now, I'm technically on a social media platform talking to you guys. I use this platform as a form of expression, communication, sometimes inspiration, education, all of that. It's amazing for that reason, right? But there's a lot of emotions tied into YouTube that are based in the desire for validation and approval and all that. And I as a content creator, given that this is also part of my job and my career, I've chosen that path, right? I've chosen to make YouTube part of my career and many parts of social media and online presence. That's my whole career has been revolving around that for many years. It's interesting when I try to kind of step out of myself or pause and like examine things and think like, is this truly serving me? Or am I really only doing this because I think that this is the best way to be successful? And is the success I'm after what I think is going to make me feel best about my life, right? And it's just kind of interesting when you pause to examine it, because then you have to like step back and think like, where did I even get these ideas of success? Am I trying to heal old wounds? Like when I feel triggered, emotionally sensitive to people's comments, for instance, and I feel rejected or I feel criticized, is that just bringing up old wounds from my childhood, from my relationships with my parents and other people? And am I just seeking to heal those things, right? Is that the whole purpose for me doing this? And what really trips me out when I think about this, I think I talked about this in other videos, it's like, it feels like so many of us are trying to heal old wounds, and then I start to wonder, what is the purpose of why do so many people get these wounds? Is life's purpose for us to be wounded and heal, and then wounded again, and then heal from that, and it's just like this constant cycle of feeling wounded and then getting some relief, getting some healing, and like, to me that almost feels like a weird thing. Like, if so many of us go through that, like, it almost feels like there's no purpose. And I don't mean that in like a really negative way, I guess. Like, I don't know, it's very trippy when you kind of like put your life on pause as much as you possibly can and just step back from it and look at it and be like, what am I doing and why? Like, I don't know if you guys have these. It's like an existential experience. Like, people call this an existential crisis, which reminds me of this hilarious guinea pig video. If you guys have never seen it before, look up guinea pig existential crisis, because it makes me laugh every time. It's a video on YouTube that went semi-viral. But I think that I've been seeking a lot of like realness, like authentic experiences. And I'm trying to tune in more and more to when I feel truly authentic, like I'm living authentically from my heart, when I'm saying yes to things for the right reasons and no to things for the right reasons, when I'm just living my day-to-day life in a way that just truly feels in alignment with me versus in alignment with who I think I'm supposed to be, who I think other people want me to be, and following, you know, the rules and the standards set forth by other people. And it's a tricky thing because a lot of our success kind of depends on other people, like a collaboration, for example. We can achieve a lot together when we work in unity with people, right? So in essence, we need to have validation from certain people in order to feel accepted and included and to create that unity and collaboration and all that stuff. And so it's like, well, we kind of start to figure out tactics to develop those relationships with people in order to get where we want to go. But what I often experience is like this automated way of behaving around other people that may not be truly authentic. It's almost like I'm putting on a mask in order to get something from somebody else. And that just doesn't really feel good. And I think that social media perpetuates that so much. We do see a lot of authenticity coming out through social media, but sometimes even people's posts that are like they seem like people are trying to expose themselves, and yet they're almost like exposing another mask. And so I often use this phrase or this way of describing it, like the layers. Like I like to see it as layers of ground, for example, and like digging through it. It's like we're shoveling away all these layers of ourselves to get down to the core. And I feel like sometimes when people even try to present themselves as authentic, they're still presenting unless they're still wearing some sort of mask so that it's not truly authentic. And I find myself doing that. And I have to, and like, you know, today I was at this event and I was like feeling kind of uncomfortable because I haven't fully learned how to show up authentically around other people. And I feel like that's like, in an odd way, we have to, or I'll speak for myself, I have to relearn or maybe learn for the first time how to be truly myself after spending so much of my life trying to be somebody else in order to please other people. And that's where the rules have become just so fuzzy for me. I find myself going like to this week, for example, it's like, am I rebelling against checking off all the things on my to-do list because I don't truly want to do them? Am I rebelling because I feel like there are other people's rules that don't even make sense to me? Like, what do I even truly want to do? And it is scary when you step back this way because it's almost like starting from scratch. And there's major vulnerability in starting over and starting from scratch or shifting things because suddenly you feel like you're going to be abandoned by other people who are more interested in your mask than your true self, right? Like, I think a lot of people are just terrified of revealing their true self because they feel like they've been putting on their mask for so long that no one will even recognize their true self. And, yeah, it's just kind of this fascinating thought pattern to have. And thank you guys for letting me talk through this because it might sound like a lot of nonsense, but it's just something that I contemplate a lot. It's really just wanting to live out of true alignment. And, you know, we see people like Jim Carrey talking a lot about this. And I'm really fascinated by him, for example, because he's somebody that I admired so much. When I was a teenager, like, I just remember just thinking that he was the funniest person, and I was just, like, so fascinated by him, right? And then, like, now, you don't see him as much as he used to when he was in his heyday of doing all these movies. And just seeing how he's showing up now and talking about kind of these bigger concepts and these more spiritual ideas, it sounds kind of wacky, right? But he and many people are just kind of fed up with trying to be a certain way in order to get society's approval. And coming back to that, the vulnerability, it's like, well, if so many people in this world are wearing masks and you're choosing not to wear your masks, in a way you stand out, and in another way you almost feel like no one will even see you anymore, because everyone's just looking for, not everybody, but many people are just seem to be looking for people in other masks, like-minded people. So it's like, oh, are you going to be abandoned if you take off your mask, if you choose to live life differently than others? You look at somebody like Jim Carrey, who kind of the media in ways kind of seems to ostracize, like they're making fun of him, like saying he's lost his mind, all of that. But then you dig into some of the comments on his videos and you see how many people are like excited about this new Jim Carrey, right? The things that he's saying, they're really resonating with it. So I don't know, maybe we're just in this transitionary time. There's so much more to be seen in terms of how social media is going to affect us. I'm really fascinated with the psychology of social media, and I've been reading so much about that lately. It's like I'm kind of in it, so I can relate to a lot of the stuff, but then it's almost hard to truly understand something if you're in it, because you don't have the unbiased perspective of it. And for instance, there's been a number of articles coming out about like old people that used to work for Facebook or helped start Facebook, and now they're kind of regretting their involvement, and they're thinking, what have we done? We're programming all these people, and we're manipulating people to act in a certain way, to think in a certain way, to have these emotional triggers, to being liked on Facebook and having followers and all that. And I see this obsession, right? Being a content creator, which is often lumped in with the influencer element, was not a word that I really like, but because it just kind of seems so based in the ego these days. But you see a lot of these people who are obsessed with how many followers they have, how many views that they get, how many likes that they get, and it's like this insatiable hunger. And I sometimes get these reminders of why people do that. Like for most days, I'm like, I don't really care. Like I don't need to post on Instagram, and who cares how many people like my photo? Like I just want to post what I want to post when I want to post it. And same thing with videos. I don't have a lot of consistency on social media, despite knowing that's one of the best ways to grow an audience is consistency. And I feel conflicted because I'm here for you guys as much as for myself. And so, I want to be consistent for you so that, you can rely on me and depend on me, right? But there's that rebellious part of me that's like, I'm just going to post whenever I feel like posting. That's kind of that's the stage that I'm in lately. But anyways, what happens when you don't follow the rules of social media is if you don't have the number of followers and likes, then you get excluded from things. And that's an interesting thing, because who wants to be excluded? Like human nature, we want to be part of groups. We want to be accepted by other people. We don't want to be, who wants to be rejected or excluded, right? And what will happen is sometimes I'll apply for various campaigns, sponsorships, that sort of thing, which is a part of my income for my work and how I sustain all this work that I do. And, because I haven't been as consistent and following all the rules and all the structures of things, and I've just kind of taken this loose way of creating content, people will respond and they'll be like, sorry, you don't have as many followers or as likes or as views as we need for this, right? And it's such an interesting experience, because then you start to understand why people become obsessed with this. People are not just obsessed with how many likes, followers, views, etc. that they get for validation, for ego, but it's also because it's part of the way things work, is that there are these standards set in place by other people that if you have to be a certain way in order to be accepted into certain things, right? And so there's that conflict again. It's like, oh, well, if I don't follow the rules, then I won't be accepted. And I really want to be accepted. And then part of me is like, forget it, I don't care about being accepted. But then it feels like lonely and scary if you're not. Although I really deeply believe that if we follow our hearts, if we can find the alignment with who we really are, ultimately that is the ultimate form of approval, is our approval of ourselves. And I think we really just win in the long run. All of these forms of approval that we have on social media, the validation, are very short term. I can tell you I have been doing this for so long that I've experienced all sorts of various elements of success on social media and all of that. And I do have a passion for it. Like I love coaching other people on this stuff. Like the way that I conduct myself through my brands on social media is very different than like some of the things I recommend for other people, simply because what might not work for me may work for other people. And the majority of my students that I coach are on a bit of a different path than I am, right? And that's completely fine. But I'm still guiding them in the way that will make them feel most fulfilled and authentic. However, as both the student and the teacher, I'm fascinated by where we're at with social media and the authenticity, because ultimately that's what I'm really striving for myself and for other people, is to help myself and others learn how to live fulfilling, authentic lives and defining their own versions of success. And that's why I've been on this video rant tonight, is because I want to figure it out so I can share it with you guys and hopefully help you figure it out or lead you to your own version of figuring it out. And it's just like simultaneously confusing and very simple. So it's hard to express eloquently. I don't know if I've done a good job of this. And again, I just want to thank you guys for giving me a place to work through all these different ideas and feelings. But I don't know if anybody's really has figured out. I think that we're just in this relatively new time of digital living. You know, like social media has not been around in the way that it is right now for very long. It's really been such a big thing for only a few years. I mean, Facebook's been around for a while, but it's taken a long time for Facebook to grow to such a mass of people that have accounts on there. Same thing with Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and all of that. Like, it's constantly growing, it's constantly evolving. And so we're always kind of trying to figure it out in our own ways. And so I guess like the probably chaos that I feel on a regular basis is just very common, but maybe not a lot of people verbalize it. And I think that that's part of my inspiration for doing videos like this, is starting a conversation so that you guys can start to reflect on it and maybe share what you're feeling and experiencing. And perhaps that combined, that discussion can lead us to some more clarity, can lead us to feeling more at peace, to lead us saying, hey, nobody really knows what they're doing. I mean, it's all kind of guesswork. Like, that's just part of life, is like. And I think that's also ultimately the big idea in this video when I talk about breaking the rules, is like, there really are no rules in life. There are only rules that that somebody sets forth that many people may follow. And everybody has different people that they look up to and leaders, and, you know, we're all kind of, as I said earlier, experiencing our own different versions of life. And the path that we choose to go on is going to be different from person to person. And then there'll be groups of people that follow certain sets of rules, and that's just kind of how society has been set up. But we can choose to stay or leave those conditions at any point, because all of those are made up by other human beings just like you and me. And that's why I don't really believe in black and white things, right or wrong, is because it's all based on our own experiences and beliefs and constraints of how we're living at the time. And I think when I get to that place in my mind, it brings me peace. So it's another reason why I wanted to express this is like reminding myself of all of this, getting all of this chaos out of my mind into my mouth and, out into the world helps me like really reflect back on it and say, you know what? This is all just being made up. All this guilt and shame that I experience at times is based on a lot of nonsense. So when I view it as nonsense, the shame and the guilt start to melt away, and I can find more self-acceptance. It can be easier for me to just focus on the gratitude, focus on the things that bring me joy and the great things that happened. There are great things happening all the time. So I guess I just shouldn't worry about checking off all the to-do lists or checking off all the to-dos on my list and doing things in the other people's timelines and the ways that they want things done. And, rules are often put into place to avoid chaos, but I feel like there's a lot of internal chaos that happens to us as individuals when we follow other people's rules and don't really know why. So I do believe in having some rules. There are elements of me that are very by the book and love strategizing and all that stuff. So a lot of things I'm talking about tonight are in direct conflict with some of my behavior and my recommendations and advice and all that. And that's where that tug of war comes into place. Maybe as human beings, we're simultaneously very simple and very complex. We're not easily definable, and life is not easily definable. And that's where all these gray areas come into place. So hopefully some of this stuff makes sense. I'll read it through a few comments. My battery's about to die, so if I drop out of nowhere, you'll know why. And so I had Shanium said, hello, how are you going? I hope you're having a good day. Artist Infantry said, I hope I'm not too late. And Kitty said, your messages are always so timely and spot on. I appreciate that. You watch my videos for a reason, because you connect with me and you can relate to a lot of these emotions and experiences, and that's, I feel accepted and approved of by you guys, so that's a good feeling. I feel like we're in this together, even though many of us are different. You guys have your own experiences and perspectives and beliefs and on and on. So thank you for bringing your individual selves, personalities, perspectives to the table. I love reading your comments, so please continue to leave them on the recorded videos. I haven't read them in, well, actually, I think I'm probably up to date on them. I rarely sit down to write written responses, but I do take them in, and I hope that you guys know that and know how much I appreciate your energy around all this. Anyways, that's it for now. That's my spontaneous dumping of thoughts at this moment. And I definitely intended to share more about things going on in my life, if you guys are curious about that, but I'll have to do that at another time because my battery's about to die. This has been a long video, and I do actually want to go check a few things off my to-do list, believe it or not. After all that, I'm like, I'm gonna go follow some rules after all. Living contradiction, I suppose. All right, everyone, thank you again for watching. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you next time and reading some of your lovely comments on here. Hope you're doing very well, and I'll see you soon. Bye.